everyone, Mike Andes here at landscapebusinesscourse.com. Today we're not talking about business, we're not talking about landscaping, we're talking about real estate. And a couple weeks ago I posted a picture about this property that we rehabbed over the past several weeks and are now renting out for a much higher price. A lot of you asked, could you do a detailed walkthrough, actually show what you changed in the improvements while spending $50,000 on the rehab and how we're able to raise the rents. So we're gonna take you directly through the whole place, and this is Liz. She is the property manager that has helped me with all my properties, and I have 10 units. And again, the preface for all of this is the fact that I was 7-8 years in business before getting involved in real estate. And I always recommend get established in the business and make it a pillar financially to actually be able to afford investing. Don't get started in like your second year of you're running your landscape business, then I gotta go do real estate, then it's stocks. Like, don't get distracted. Focus on your business, make sure it's profitable, and then when you have money to invest, that's when you can start thinking about something more passive like real estate. Which for me is passive. Liz does all the work. She gets all the credit for this rehab. She's the one that's been working with the contractors and all the rest of it. So today, I'm gonna walk you through, I'm gonna talk about some of the numbers, but she's gonna actually show some of the actual nuts and bolts behind what actually went on with the contractors. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and go inside because it's raining, it's Bellingham, welcome to the Pacific Northwest. But before we do, Liz, why would someone like myself want a property manager instead of trying to figure it out on their own?
Well, since most of our demographic is the landscape community, what we want to show is how that you can transition into that and have some other income besides. So just like we protect and guard and block for the estimator out in the field, we do the same for the property manager. Just like you say you're the estimator, we say that the owner would like blah, 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 and then the property manager is the one who executes everything the owner wants. So even if I'm making the majority of the decisions, I can always put it back to, let me go back, just like you would and talk to the office, I would say, let me go back and talk to the owner. Even though I'm making the decision myself, get right back to him with my decision. Always keeping the owner in mind. The property manager's role is to come into a property and do the bare minimum to raise the rates to what it should be in your area and bring profit to the owner over time so that he makes recurring income.
So first of all, the exterior of the property, we had to spend quite a bit on just trimming the trees. These trees have not been cut back for a very long time. This property was built in the 1990s, so it's a little bit older than some of the other properties I've purchased, but we had to trim a ton of the trees back. They were touching the house. They were really making it quite dark. So quite a bit of trimming of the trees, installing some mulch, installed new gravel on the front of the driveway. So quite a bit of the expense of the $50,000 that we spent on the rehab was actually spent on the exterior, trimming the bushes, gravel, mulch, etc., which is usually not your best return, but this definitely made this property look a lot better.
Even during the renovations, people would walk by. It's important to do the outside first because right away you catch the attention of the public and they're already walking by asking who owns it and appreciating what's being done, asking for the contractor's number. So the outside is what they see first and it should be done first.
Cool, so we're gonna go ahead and jump in, but at the end of the day's video, stick around because I'm going to walk through the actual numbers and the return on the money that we spent. Because $50,000 is nothing to sneeze over. Well, it's quite a bit of money. And I want to break down why that was still a good investment in terms of how we were able to raise the rents and the value to the property because of that rehab cost. So let's go ahead and jump in. Yeah, so inside here, Liz, this was a fireplace. This is actually where people could potentially make fires. Why did we put the guard here? Why are we gonna get rid of this? And why do we not allow any fireplaces, like real fires to be made?
It's just a hazard for an owner to have to deal with. Number one, the uncleanliness, but the danger is a huge thing. I don't want somebody practicing building a fire to roast their marshmallows and not knowing that there's a flue that needs to be open, you know. Welcome to the world of no common sense.
So here we obviously have new carpet. We've painted the trim and all of the walls. Why are the walls not perfectly white? What type of paint in terms of just generic do we use? And why do we kind of go after the low-hanging fruit like paint and carpet?
So number one, you want to avoid decision fatigue. So on every unit, I use the same colors. On the walls, the kitchen, I use the satin for the kitchen and the bathrooms and things, but you'll see on the trim, all the trim is not new. And so when I receive bids from the contractor, they will try to throw in prices for all new trim and baseboards. They will try to upsell me on those things, but I know they're not a game changer and will not bring more value. So I painted the walls. I did a carpet that's not the lowest grade because it is a rental and we want it to last 10 years. Typically, if you do a turnover, if you paint the walls and fix the carpet, that's not something you charge the customer for unless there's holes in the walls from the last tenant. But that is the lowest, easiest way to get the place up to looking good.
It's all about what we can do to raise the rents. And if someone potentially has better baseboards, probably not going to raise the rents because they're looking at things like bedrooms and just overall cleanliness.
Yeah, so this place is about 2,800 square feet. And so to put trim and baseboards in all this place was going to be a few $1,000s. So I just said no on that part. There were nice vertical shades here, and so that was a plus. I didn't have to replace them. Some units you'll have to replace these. The faux wooden blinds are really the best bet, and we'll show you some of those as well.
Cool. And then in terms of paint color, we don't have perfectly white. Is this eggshell? What's kind of the best?
This is flat, but it's a really high quality gray. And then a satin you should always use in the bathrooms and in the kitchen. And if you have to paint the cabinets, you also do that as well. You'll see that the paints do look white, but they aren't. They're a very pale gray. And on the exterior of the buildings, I also avoid decision fatigue by always using the same thing. At the end of each job, I always replace the lock and the deadbolt. You never know what copies of keys tenants made and would try to come back. So for instance, I don't have to change the electrical, but I had them change the plates because they looked really bad. Cream to match cream. If it's white, match it to white.
So I think the big takeaway too is just making sure it's renter grade, right? So whether it be the quality of the materials, the if they're expensive, like just making sure it's renter grade. So for example, here we didn't change out all the cabinets and everything. We just changed out the handles, the mirror, and the light fixtures. Why do we kind of focus on changing out the things that people touch?
Well, typically I would use satin nickel because it's nickel plated because it's a little more inexpensive. But here I needed to paint the cabinets because they were so bad and the hinges were already here. So in order to save a lot of money and not replace the hinges, this time I went with the bronze and I was able to buy in bulk, and so I was able to get it cheaper. We also have a Lowe's for Pros account, so online you can get a 5% discount on everything. So I have it all delivered to the store. And then this was just a flat mirror. I wanted a medicine cabinet, but the wall's depth, because there's a shower behind, once they drilled in, they couldn't go that deep, so I did a flat mirror, and then I changed out the lights. So we usually do quartz in some of them, but this was in pretty good shape. There's no cuts or anything in this here. It's all sealed off nice. So we saved money this time, not having to do countertops, but just painting and basically refacing the look of it. And then I matched all the accessories with that. And the reason I did that also is because the floor, it ties in the tan, and then also just comes right over into this amazingly huge laundry room with the same accessories here and a new dryer. And then we have these wave contour shades. Now you might ask, this is completely clean and there's a film in here, but it's not, the seal would be broken on the inside, but it's not causing any bleeding of water or anything. And it's not an expense we wanted to do right now since we spent the $50,000 on everything else.
So typically we would be changing the windows into vinyl, but again, as soon as you take the window out, you're gonna have to replace siding, the exterior trim, the whole inside, it gets a mess. So again, we're trying to, not lipstick, like we're trying to do good quality product, making sure that it's gonna be tenant proof, but we're not gonna tear out windows in a massive, like this unit here is 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. It has like almost 2,000 square feet. There's a 2-car garage on top of that. So it's pretty big. So this is one of the first bedrooms downstairs. Kind of almost downstairs could be like a suite, like a mother-in-law suite, for example. This used to be like a walk-in door to a closet. What's up with this one?
So you'll see there's no door here. And what happens is a door is in the way. And when I've had tenants come in, they ask that the door be removed or they remove the door. So if you want to come and see in here, this is an understairs storage. It had 2 types of horrid laminate in there. We just pulled it out and ran the carpet into here too. It gives them a lot more storage space. And one thing I'll mention is that when you have properties that are rental, they are graded. So you could take an A, that's really the highest quality, where you would put the highest quality products in, down to a D where, you know, there's cockroaches everywhere. So this is not an A. So you are gonna attract clients, tenants that would fit in this demographic. Maybe a family. You can never use the word family or anything to that effect because it's considered discrimination. But this, I would say, would be probably a C. And so we have made the necessary improvements to raise the rents and bring a good demographic of people.
Cool, let's head upstairs. On the way up, let's talk about this unit, what it was renting for prior to the rehab, and now what is it renting now?
So there was a family here and they paid $1,500 a month. And the rates in this town, where we are, is close to the hospital. Nice restaurants, fast food, spas, anything you can think of is basically within riding your bike distance. So that price was way too low for what we have here. Even a one-bedroom little studio would go for $1,200 or $1,300.
Yeah, and so for those of you watching, like, that rent is crazy because now we're charging $2,800. We're gonna be renting this out tonight. The reason it's $2,800 is because we live in Bellingham. Bellingham is a coastal city, and typically you're gonna see on the coastal, like Florida, California, Washington State, where we're at, there's typically a lot higher rents and higher property values because there's a limited supply of coastal living. So if you're living in Ohio, yes, this is a very expensive property. I purchased it for $617,000 a year ago. And
it's a duplex.
And it was bid up like 15 or 20,000 above the asking price. Yeah, it's a duplex, so this unit is exactly what's on the other side of the wall. We'll talk about that one when it comes to the numbers. But this is the living room, kind of the same thing, trying to bring as much light in as possible. You can kind of see from here all the trees that were trimmed. This used to be very, very dark inside of here. So really just opening this up. On a nice day, you can actually see all of Bellingham City, actually see little glimpses of the bay. So really nice, but all of these arborvitae had to be taken down like 3 or 4 feet. I hope we never have to do it again for at least 10 more years, but it's definitely a one-time cost just to bring the light in and make this look a little bit more inviting, a little bit larger. So let's head into the kitchen now.
And again, you want the colors to be neutral. You want them to be able to imagine their furniture in here, their photos, their family. When they come to view it, I'm home.
Cool, so in the kitchen where a lot of times you can spend a ton of money, this one we went with a little bit less. Usually, like you said, we would do quartz countertops because they're basically indestructible. But when we came to this one, we already knew we were gonna be spending a lot on the exterior just because there's a lot of improvement needed, painting the entire place, etc. But we did not go with quartz. Why did we not go with quartz? Why did we go ahead and paint the cabinets instead of tearing this all, instead of making this like HGTV's incredible kitchen makeover, taking out cabinets and all the rest of it? Why did we just kind of paint them, put on new hardware, etc.?
So again, look at how many hinges there are in this kitchen. So if I replaced those, it would be so expensive. And you've got to watch your contractors because right away they're like, oh, we want to replace all of this. And so I said no. So you can have cabinets that are in incredibly good shape. These cabinets are just beautiful. So it's basically just refacing them, and we didn't have to replace any of the doors either. They were in great shape. So I just bought large packs of these and put them throughout the house. Another reason is the brown is in the floor. The hint of gray is in the walls. It doesn't seem like it, but it is. This is eggshell, and so because of that, I have this piece of laminate that has nothing in it, no burns, nothing like that. And if there was a piece in here, you can't really repair it. And that would be why if there was even a big piece here, we'd have to replace all of it, and quartz is really an upgrade that is wonderful. And so there's nothing on this piece. The only thing in the entire kitchen is one small piece here and some burn marks here, which when I do the move-in walkthrough, we'll acknowledge those, that it's not this tenant's responsibility. This is not new, but they cleaned it up incredibly well. And then this piece, when you think of having to clean something that gets this dirty, it is cheaper to pay $100 to buy a new one than it is to have somebody deep cleaning this for 2 or 3 hours.
Now there's certain things that we kind of spend a little bit more on, go a little more higher end. Why do we spend like what is probably like $80, $100 for this thing? Why do we spend so much on this but then like not do other little things? Why is it that it's something that we touch? Like why is that a big deal?
Yeah, so the things that tenants touch are the things that you want to do something with. So this is very nice, but it also pulls in all the knobs and the hinges in the kitchen. There's also the pieces, the drain pieces inside that I buy, not just the plugs, but the whole little mechanism. This place had a garbage disposal, and as a property manager and owner, you want to disconnect that. So the contractor wanted to repair, replace, and that was going to be pretty expensive, but it's not a hazard you want in a rental. So as the owner, we disconnect it, but everything in there is new and shiny. So this is the same, and I just upgraded the whole thing by replacing this one piece, putting this beautiful contour wave, a blind in. It's pretty cool. And
cool.
So this is perfect either for a family, which you can't say again, but it's a huge area. It could be a storage area, but we put a gigantic fridge. And so all I did was pay somebody to come and do an incredible job cleaning. And again, the owner, Mike, should never even be touching any of this. So the owner puts up the income and he wants a return on his investment for long-term wealth that he can just month by month, year by year, be gaining more income. I had this replaced. They had a door here that had a broken screen. It has a lock. I put a new deadbolt here to match whatever else is going on. And then out here, this deck was already here, but it's a huge area that overlooks the city. There were trees all the way up over here. That's how high the arborvitaes were. They were over 20 feet. And so we just had to trim them back. It eats away at the wood on the porch. And now, like he said, we did it now, and it's going to be a long time before we have to retrim.
And a big cost too that was unexpected. We had to redo some of the rotting on the
siding.
decks.
Oh
the
yeah,
decks.
and the decks, yeah.
Cool, couple more bedrooms and we'll call it. So this unit is now gonna be rented for $2,800, like you said, potentially a family or a few different tenants that might split the rent.
I'm also thinking college students who are, or we also have traveling nurses in our area. Nurses and doctors that come in for just a period of time. I typically will only do a year lease, but for the quality of those people that are just working, they're not here very often. The same, if I find high quality students who can all split the rent and their parents will co-sign for them, their parents have to also be approved for a lease. And so then they have this beautiful big bedroom with the 3 bedrooms. I could have 3 to 4 tenants. There's a nice spacious closet. Typically you'll have to replace the doors. I didn't have to replace any of the knobs on the doors, thankfully this time, because they kind of match the theme.
Cool, bathroom number 2.
Yes, so this bathroom is the same kind of flooring as in the kitchen. I didn't have to replace it. Typically we have to do it with the vinyl plank flooring. This is not that pretty. I could have reglazed it for $1,200, but there's not really a lot of cracks in it. There was one crack, and then I just had them put some putty in it. All the toilets, they didn't look great, but I had them cleaned and then just put new handles on them so the mechanisms work better. Also, avoiding decision fatigue, I got the same mirrors, everything on Lowe's for Pros. They're shipped here to the store, and I just pick them up and drop them off for the crew.
I think the value, like if you're wanting to get into real estate, something that's important is like try to learn from other people. So like even before we got involved in real estate at all, we purchased probably a few $1,000s worth of courses from like Meet Kevin, which is a great resource. And even the binders that Liz uses a lot of times is their suggested material types. And like, for example, the fireplaces, different types of knobs, like bronze versus nickel, all those type of things you can learn. And so, you know, some people's like online courses are a scam. It's probably saved us tens of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
And hundreds of hours. And that's why, you know, landscape business course is a scam. Well, yeah, maybe, but hopefully it'll save you some time on your landscaping business. So same thing applies for real estate or stocks, anything anything you're trying to invest in, go learn something. You'll cut out a huge learning curve in things.
Yeah, so just like we use the Audible for our team, I have my own personal Audible that has almost 300 books, and just this week I've listened to 5 on investing. If I'm not investing for properties, the owner is. So if I can get into their head, how they think, what they feel, and then I can really have an understanding of what he's trying to do, then I can do with the property management business what he's needing to better serve his needs.
And if you're running a business, your time is better spent running the business and then focusing on the capital acquisition for the real estate deal. So I focus on, can we finance it? Can I get a good deal? Can I negotiate? But I'm not gonna micromanage what type of carpet we have, what type of paint, because my time is better spent making the money for the deals. And then she does an incredible job of listening to books all the time. You know, I listen to Bigger Pockets a lot, but when I'm looking at Bigger Pockets or podcasts like Bigger Pockets, I'm thinking, how do I acquire deals? How do I finance deals? What are the cap rates? What are the internal rate of return? All of that stuff I'm worried about. She's incredible at the actual tenant management and the tenants and toilets. She's incredible at that stuff. And so if you have a property manager, let them do their thing and you focus on the actual capital side of things and buying the deals.
And you might ask, well, how do you communicate? He trusts me, and so if I'm making all these decisions, how do we communicate? And I'll just show you, just as if when we train you for the estimate videos, it's exactly the same. All of that knowledge in the landscape industry has helped me tremendously here. So when I work well with my contractors, it's no different than any business. Your relationships are what determine your success. So this is kind of the theme of my business. For every project, I have the month and the year, and then I have the address. And so what I do is exactly what you do in the landscape industry. I build my bid just the same. So just like you do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of what you want done, video recorded for service crew, I do the same thing, and then I present it to the contractor. These are items I want, and this is the price I want. Otherwise, you're gonna get back, number 1, paint the house. That doesn't tell me anything. And so the same with this, then the same as we do our estimate videos for WhatsApp. Mike and I have a WhatsApp chat called Mike Andy's Real Estate. If I purchase something, I take a picture of the receipt and put it there. It's so helpful that way, because he knows every time I'm buying it. There's a time stamp on it because I buy it as soon as I walk away from the register. If I have to return things, it's there. All the bids and the check that I wrote are also laying on there when I take a picture, so he knows exactly what I spent for everything. And we live and learn. Like, there's stuff from this project, 2 or 3 things that I won't do next time, because every time I'm gonna get better.
All right, so this is the master bedroom. So we got a half bath here. We got a walk-in closet over here. Let's go ahead and talk about the numbers though. Let's go over here to the deck. This is actually, again, we had to fix this all up because it was rotting beforehand.
So we have the Trex decking on the base, and then I had 2 colors for this place. So typically we use a palette of 3, and I use the same at every single property. But on this particular one, there really wasn't a third one to use. So I used our darker gray and then a paler gray on the accents. It's very subtle, the differences. But I'll show you outside. We did the entire fence as well, which you couldn't even see the fence when we drove in the first time.
Cool. So the numbers on this one, we spent about almost exactly 50,000, like 50,000.
Including the painting of 2 places.
Yep.
2,000 square foot
So
homes.
right now we're breaking down these numbers. We're thinking about both the whole duplex, right? So that other unit, we did not do interior, we didn't do carpet, we didn't do painting. We only painted the exterior and fixed their deck. So this renovation cost includes all of this, all the exterior stuff. So rents on this one went from $1,500 a month to $2,800. Rent on the second unit is now rented at $2,000, and it was at $1,650.
Correct.
So the total rent went up $1,650 per month, gross rents, because of the renovations. The utilities now are going to be in their name as well.
Correct.
Which, when we purchased the place, the utilities were in our name as the owner, and it was horrible. You never want your utilities to be paid by the owner, because they could just leave a faucet on forever and you're paying for it. So again, let's just average kind of on the low end, $120 per unit for utilities that we're now saving, so $240 per month. So in all, we're either saving or making an additional $1,890 per month in gross rent revenue. So So over the course of a year, if you do the math, that's $22,680 per year. So by spending the $50,000, which I agree is a lot of money, like it costs probably 8 to 9 grand to paint the place and fix the decks, another 5 or 6 grand to trim all the bushes and the trees and mulch and gravel and all the rest of it. It's a lot of money, I get that. But that $50,000 is going to return $22,680 per year, which is a 45% return on investment. And at the end of the day, the thing that's not talked about is the fact that by raising the rents that much, this area is a 4 to 5 cap area in terms of what they're going to be valued at. So by raising the rents to that extent, we're raising the equity of the property by at least $100,000 to $150,000 in what's called forced appreciation because of the improvements to the building.
And you might ask, I can do all this myself, I don't need a property manager. Well, through the coronavirus, you can't imagine how much communication I had with tenants, BHA, the HUD. It was a harrowing experience. And so you might say, is it really worth it to have a property management? Well, typically for a small amount of doors, you'll pay your property manager about 10% of rents that come in. So as you can imagine, with multiple people not paying rents plus trashing the place, drug addicts and things that don't want to get out, the property manager is doing all the work and not making very much money. So they are absolutely worth 10%. And then to really incentivize them, a lot of property managers will charge on the turnover. In between, when you have to do this kind of thing, they'll charge a rate, like a flat rate of $600, $1,000 per turnover, it's called. And even if there's not a turnover of the building, it's a turnover of taking one tenant out and moving another in, which is quite a bit of back and forth. So if you had hundreds of doors, that percentage would go down. It would go 2 to 5%. But when they're small like this, it's typically 10 to 12%. I don't charge Mike anything for the turnovers at all, and just take the 10% that I charge him, and then I'm a 1090, and then I just invoice him once a month and pay it myself from his account.
Cool, so I made a video previously about the financing of these deals and kind of more of the numbers, so check that out. And again, last before we leave, and that is, do not get distracted by real estate investing. It's the new shiny thing on the block, along with crypto and stocks and all the rest of it. If you're building a business, focus on that first. I didn't buy my second deal outside of my primary residence until I had 7 to 8 years of business experience under my belt. The businesses were doing well, and I was now taking the excess money and trying to invest it. So stay focused on your business, build that financial pillar, and that allows you to do these other things. I'm Mike Andes, Liz Neighbor. Thanks so much. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey everyone, I'd like to invite you to Landscape Summit. It's a conference I have in January. It's gonna be the 13th, 14th, and 15th of January, 2022. It's here locally, and I'm really looking forward to meeting other landscapers like yourself that wanna grow their business.